But we want to start right now with the Line 3 Enbridge battle and tell us what we don't learn from the mainstream media.
So the mainstream media really hasn't covered much about it at all. We've not heard what's going on, and part of the reason is that the administration is giving complete green light for that. We have to mention that the administration did block Alaskan oil drilling, and they do. Meanwhile, the pipeline, the XL pipeline, has kind of crumbled and gone away. But Line 3 Enbridge is still has the green light. About 60% of it has been completed. The status now is that the Indigenous people and people who support them in Michigan, the water protectors, have been actively trying to slow down everything. They're in the courts now, and so they appealed for the Supreme Court in Minnesota, and that is now taking place. Hopefully, that will work. But they've also done actions on the ground. We've tried to get someone from there for today, but that didn't work out. Maybe next week we will. But they've been chaining themselves to equipment, climbing on bulldozers, crawling into pipes, and have really kind of slowed down the works there. However, they're being arrested. Last week there's been arrests, and if that's not enough, they have also been intimidated by choppers flying low and trying to scare them. I don't think that's going to work or has worked, but they're trying everything to intimidate them, and that is, I think the choppers are probably state-owned. I'm not exactly sure, but I think that's law enforcement's job, not the private companies. But we'll get more details on that. What is the tar sand oil? That is the oil that most of the people protesting are trying to prevent from being excavated, and that is in the main area where these oils are being excavated are in Canada, in Alberta, and it's causing huge environmental devastation, as well as problems with social problems in that area. The pay is very low. In every place that has been taking place, the health has declined. There's been social problems with sex trafficking, and so it's causing a problem on the excavation and not only on the transport. And part of what these companies are after is something called bitumen. Bitumen is used in cement works. There are other alternatives, green alternatives, but they're not going to be very successful unless we take away bitumen or put in the actual externality prices on the products, which is currently not the case. The oil companies are just digging it, and they don't have to pay for the cleanup or any environmental damages. So it's clearly not feasible to proceed with that. What makes it crazy is that they are actually losing money on the oil production, not making money. So they're paying more on the production and transport than they are on the on selling those barrels. So currently the barrel price is $72, actually 71 and something, but it's $72. It costs $82 to produce. They're losing $10 per barrel to do that, and this is why that the banks are not happy to give them loans. It's a losing proposition, and they're basically trying to sell it as something that has a future upcoming profitability, because Asia is growing. They need the bitumen for construction, and they're predicting that oil prices are going to go up. And so the whole thing is based on some projections and some prospecting, but it's flawed, and it's those projects, if you left them alone, they would probably crumble because of the logical,
because it's not economically viable on their own.
Yes, it makes no sense.
Exactly, and that's what happened with the other pipelines. But this one, they're persisting, and the reason is that you want to talk about this a little, about the pipeline itself, Keith.
Yeah, I do. But before we do, on that very first slide, I put something at the bottom that I want people to be aware of in the tar sands. Yeah, that's the one. Is that, if you're into peak oil or energy depletion and follow these things, you quickly learn this concept called energy return on energy invested. And this gets into the pricing and the cost of extracting it. These are tar sands. This is not oil that can just be refined immediately. It actually has to be refined into a crude oil product before it can be sent to the actual refineries, where it can be turned into conventional, gasoline and various plastics and products. So plastics mostly coming from natural gas. But anyway, so it takes an enormous amount of energy to produce this stuff. And like one way, looking at the executives of these companies are looking at in the future, the way to get this stuff is going to have to build nuclear power plants and actually use the nuclear power to provide the energy to cook the tar sands, to get the oil, to put in the pipeline, to send down to us for us to, use. So
it's absurd. Yeah,
that's what I really want people to be aware of, is the energy return on energy invested concept. Because if you look at what's happening in the world, all the easy energy is now gone. At one time you could stick a pipe in the ground in the right place in the earth, and you'd get oil out of it, and you would get 100 times the energy that you invested to get the product. And as long as you're able to, get more energy out than you're putting in, it sort of makes sense. But as we have, population grows, time goes by, we use up our energy, the easy to get energy is gone. The more polluting, far more polluting. These tar sands, say in 10 years, if you're putting a gallon of tar sand gasoline in your car, you're polluting at least twice as much as you did like 10 years previously, when it was just coming out of, fracked wells, which is bad enough. So it's just, the technology, as time goes by, we're not looking at the future, and we're not looking at what we're going to do when this stuff runs out. We're not looking at the environmental consequences. We're not looking at the polarization and the increased inequality that this whole mess is creating. So, I guess I had a little rant there. So talking about the pipeline itself. Okay. It's advertised as a replacement pipeline. The original pipeline, the place that's being is replaced there, is the upper part. That was built years ago to move conventional oil from Alberta, and then later it's been repurposed to move tar sands oil. And it's old. There have been frequent spills on it. So Enbridge did all the necessary things to make it legal, which means we just had 4 years of Trump, so I don't think getting various approvals for a pipeline was very hard. So, who knows what the true cost of this this pipeline is going to be. But I looked at the Enbridge website over this week. Amazing PR. I downloaded a great picture of sunflowers. I may use it someday as a background on my own green screen. My gosh, just a beautiful. The PR, and they got smiling faces, explaining that they've worked with the culture. They're following, cultural practices, and it's just a huge amount of BS. So that's what's going on, and I kind of got interested in this story a few weeks ago because I looked at on Unicorn Riot, which is an alternate news source, and they have done extensive work documenting this Line 3 replacement over several years. And one thing that struck me is that these water protectors, they're being arrested basically right and left. They've been protesting, on a weekly basis. There's been arrests every week, basically since January. Maybe not every week, but there's huge numbers of arrests, protests, and it's not covered on the major media at all. So that's why we're here talking about this now. So I think I had something to say about that, and let's move on.
and regarding that line, so the companies say all they're trying to do is replace leaking and damaged line, and the truth is that it is leaking. It's an old pipeline. Currently they're using half the capacity that it used to have in order to transfer oil, and they want to restore it to full capacity. But we don't want that to happen. Now, they've also been sued by the local indigenous population because the lake is in there with the reservation. They rerouted around it, so you see that sharp 90-degree edge there. That is to reroute around the that's how they got permission to go ahead with this project. However, they're still crossing the waterways, and they're endangering the wild rice fields. The local population is living off of those wild rice fields, and the entire water supply and so forth. So it's still endangering the native reserve. And they are also infringing on the rights of the native population to hunt outside of their reservation, which is actually secured by the treaty. So this is kind of breaking the treaty that we have with Native Americans in that area, and these are the grounds for the court issues. Now they've documented that every place this project is going, sexual abuse is going up. There's a lot of cases of sexual violence that is directly associated statistically.
Amos, on the Enbridge website, they advertise all the jobs that they're creating.
Yeah.
The truth is, yes, they're creating jobs. They're all temporary. And what you get, with the sex trafficking, you're going to get that anywhere. You have a bunch of single men, showing up to work for months on end what I'm saying here. I mean, that's human nature. So, but the point is, they're not doing these kind of jobs are not the kind of jobs that really do society that much good. I mean, it's great work if you can get it right. It's good for your bank account if you're working and getting paid $100K a year to put a pipe in the ground or something when you couldn't do anything else. But the fact is, they're not long-term jobs that really build a community. This is the number of jobs involved in actually oil work is small. It goes up, as technology gets involved and it gets harder to get, but it's a whole PR spin. And Enbridge also made a big point about how they worked with tribes, and they worked with the tribes that are cooperative with them. There are certain people, I'm sure, who are making big bank off this, but there's the others. There's the left out. Those are the water protectors. Why are they there if life is so wonderful and these corporations are have their back? Well, obviously they don't, or they would not be training themselves to equipment and getting arrested for what?
And their talking point is that these protesters are opposing progress and infrastructure. They're clearly not. They are all for infrastructure. They could, for example, improve the waterways and improve the water supplies and other services in this area, but they're not. Instead, they're choosing to do something that's damaging to the environment. Here's the negative impacts that both of transportation and extraction have, and this is down at the bottom. You see the picture of the petroleum coke that's being generated, but so the side product petroleum coke and massive they create massive ponds of toxic waste. The destructive flattening of the deforestation of the ancient forest in Alberta, and that's something that won't come back. It's an ancient forest; they're just destroying it. Depletion and pollution of freshwater resources that's used to extract, endanger livelihood and health of First Nation Indigenous tribes. That is on the extraction point. And on the transport point, it's spills have contaminated groundwater and rivers, especially the last one. The big last one was in, I believe, 1991. Spills impact wildlife and vegetation and cost billions of dollars to taxpayers. Introduction and increase of sex trade and human trafficking into pipeline construction, man camp areas, they call them man camps. Yeah. And import of hundreds of workers to normally secluded communities threaten and cause spread of COVID. That's during the pandemic. So it's very unfortunate.
You know, the Indigenous peoples have gotten a raw deal for so many decades, and we saw it play out in Dapple when, you know, Obama said, "Let's see how it plays out." And you know, in Pennsylvania, we have about an hour and a half from me. I've done protests there. There's a town outside of Lancaster that's called Conestoga, and they have burial grounds of natives and so much history of Indigenous peoples, and they have pipelines. And I believe, at least last time I checked, Pennsylvania was the second biggest state for pipelines and fracking, and they have pipelines that are not illegal to go on people's land. Like, meaning you own a home and they are still legally allowed to put pipes on your land. Now, the pipes, the way they look, you would not believe it. They are bright orange and they literally look like water slides at a water park. They are huge and they are on top of the ground. So you see a house and you just see these huge circular orange pipes. Now they put it on, there's one woman who has it on her property who is disabled. If there was ever a fire, she can't get out. They literally have it on an elementary school property. They literally are allowed to put it anywhere. And so it's not just, you know, the fact that they're, you know, just desecrating Indigenous lands. They're also putting people at risk, and they're also not giving people a say on their own property.
And the playbook in Pennsylvania, at least I'm sure in a lot of other places, but I've actually seen it in action when they started with the fracking, was to make local counties and other governments, local governments, increase the taxes in these rural areas. So people were unable to pay their taxes, and therefore they would accept any offer to buy off the land rights in order to for the companies to do whatever they wished for, pennies on the dollar. And people just didn't see through it. But that is probably also what's going on now. I wish there was more coverage of that. But they have means to force people to cooperate or sell out their land just to survive.
Yeah.
Let's. Would you want to talk about these videos, Keith?
Yes, I made both of these. I'll talk about them again after we play them. The first one in particular, because I'll explain when I. Anyway, yeah, I spent some time on this. Let's just start with the first. Noam here is going to put us in the mood for the second one, and so it'll just play the first one, then go right on the second one.
In the business press, they're planning to increase investment and production of fossil fuels because the price is going up. Totally suicidal. Gain more wealth for the super rich who run the country. Meanwhile, the country will be destroyed. It'll be uninhabitable in a few years. But whatever's going on in the minds of human beings, they are capable of saying, let's destroy ourselves, let's destroy life for our children, because I can make a few more dollars.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I cheated a little bit there. Noam was actually talking about Saudi Arabia, and I clipped him and added the footage, but I don't think he'll mind if he's watching. Yeah, so let's play the second one.
This is the head of the fucking black snake, and we need you all to come out and stand with us.
Yeah, it's critical that we're here today in northern Minnesota at the headwaters of the Mississippi, protesting the Line 3 Enbridge pipeline. This pipeline is a direct assault against Indigenous people and their land treaty rights.
Going into battle, like battle against Little Bighorn. It's one of our battles, our modern day battles, that we have to go against this modern day cavalry.
On Enbridge Line 3, because it's going to poison the water and the land. So this is what we have to do because all the processes have failed.
Watching how police and law enforcement continue to show up to defend this pipeline, and Enbridge is actually like paying police to...
We're here for the water. We're here because I look forward to a future without pipelines, a future without police.
You guys are all trespassing on...
Yep.
No way.
Heard.
Property at this point. All right, gross misdemeanor charge for that trespass on that property along with felony theft charges. You need to disperse at this time or you will be arrested for those.
I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying, keep it in the ground. We are at Pipeline 3, where they're going to be bringing in the awful, dirty, gross tar sands. It's going to be more than the Keystone. This has got to be stopped.
Well, we're stopping traffic from coming and going. We're stopping the pipeline in our way, the only way we feel like we can.
Out here, young and old together, fighting to stop this pipeline. They're making billions of dollars with the destruction of our earth. It's crucial. It's crucial. Study it up. Study up. Find out what has to be done to stop the pipelines and gas and oil.
Line 3, water is sacred. Water is life. Grandmothers are water protectors.
Yeah. And I'm particularly resentful to the fact that they're using public resources. They're using law enforcement to side on the side of the corporations, and that's just beyond enraging.
You don't know half of it. Yeah, you're that upsets you. On the Unicorn Riot website, I ran across a tape that was 2 hours long, and it was a internal tape about law enforcement being trained, federal, state working together you know, and then on top of that, Enbridge is able to, you know, hire basically their own private army or their own private police, you know, and of course the history of this goes way back to, you know, in the American labor movement, the Pinkertons were used to break up strikes, and so on. So you have a very you know, conservative, rabid part of the population that basically loves this kind of work, and you know, they love to arrest people, you know, and so, you know, it's really sad that these people are being arrested. They're making these statements, and nobody's covering this. And you know, this is a story that you know, it was buried. You know, 4 years ago, we had the Standing Rock situation, and one of these days, I have some private tape because I know somebody who was actually in the camp, and he was sending me videos. And you know, Trump came in. That got closed down, and the tape I've got just shows overwhelming force, you know, like these heavily armored vehicles, miles long, when they closed the place down. And you know, why am I talking about that? The point is, it was being talked about, and then the whole country went into some kind of weird amnesia state where we forgot about the environment, we forgot about the precarious nature of the direction our country was going in, and it got weird. And now we've just had, you know, over a year of pandemic, and where are we? You know, are we looking at the problems we need to deal with? Well, that's why, you know, the situation with the pipeline, I'm glad we're able to do this and talk about this and help these people get their message out, because, you know, they're not getting anything out of this, you know. They're going to jail. They're paying fines. They're having to deal with stuff, and you can bet that when they're charged, they're messed with to the maximum extent possible. So
yeah, and folks, this is the last stand. That all the other pipelines have gone. We gotta focus on this one and defeat it. So if you want to know what to do, here's what you can do. There's you can register at the Stop Line 3 site, and support them, as well as see if you can do actions. We're trying to give it some coverage here, and you should try to promote information about them as well. Our hearts are with the water protectors. Markus?
I think America needs more prisons, needs more jails. Really, because I think
executives.
If you saw the first clip, Noam Chomsky, you know, and then watch the second clip, you know, where they are leading away the old ladies, you know. It is so upside down. It is so wrong, you know. And saying, you know, America needs more jailers. All those greedy fucks, you know, they belong to jail, right? Because this is incredible. Noam Chomsky said it, you know. We are destroying ourselves, you know, and we are watching those hacks destroying our lives, and we are tolerating this shit.
Yes, we're tolerating it, unfortunately.
Yeah, and until this administration is going to be forced to intervene here, it's going to be tough, because they're trying everything on the local state level, but so far it's been an uphill battle. So let's see if federal can do something, and if they want to do something.
Yeah.